How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Football Week 2013. And also, for those of you who are watching this on Wildcat Lair, James Puglisi on Facebook, welcome. I'll put the link to the sports blog I have in the comment section, and I'll do the same on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can follow the essential coverage on Facebook, MySpace, if you still use MySpace, but that's where all the old radio shows are, and Twitter. So I will put the links below. Okay, so it's now time to preview the Central Washington Wildcats. I am really concerned about the Wildcats this year. Normally, I'm ready to go, gonna go say, hey, we're gonna win the GNAC, we're gonna Great Northwest Athletic Conference, we're gonna win the conference title. There's a chance to go to the playoffs. There's all this, but not so much this year going into the season. Because of a couple reasons. The first reason is about 4 weeks ago, Central Washington University released their football coach, Blaine Bennett. This was really surprising. I've heard rumblings about why was Blaine Bennett let go. I've also heard rumors, and logistics and that type of deal. I'm not going to dissect into what I've heard. I'm only going to dissect what I've seen on paper, and that's with the WildcatSports.com, YakimaHerald.com, and also the Seattle Times. And basically, in all those newspapers and websites, basically the new athletic director, Mr. Francois, he said he wants the program to go in a different direction. Now, my take on this is this. I can understand if you're an athletic director and you want to come in and you want to make some changes. I really can't say anything about that because you're the head honcho. I mean, you're the person that's your job is to make sure your department runs well, the students graduate, your teams are competitive, you're bringing money, all this. Okay, so as far as saying Blaine Bennett wasn't your guy, that's fine. It stinks for Blaine Bennett. It also stinks for alumni, which I will talk, and students, which I will talk about later. But I understand that whole thing of, okay, you came in, you're going to shake things up a little bit. However, why was the move done that close to the beginning of the season? I mean, because here's the deal. Blaine Bennett was the head coach of the Wildcats for 5 years. In those 5 years, 4 winning seasons, 4 conference championships, 2 playoff berths, a couple of one postseason win, an appearance in the NCAA Division II quarterfinals, number 1 ranking in the country. And I understand that happened way early in during the Blaine Bennett regime. I get that. But at the same time, as Central lost players, they still, for the most part, were a competitive football team. And that's ultimately what Central fans want. We want to have our football team be, play at its best 100% of the time. And there are some times where they do play well and they don't win games, but we ultimately want to be competitive. We want to be a force in every conference, every sport. Okay, which I understand is easier said than done. But I bring that up because the attitude we have compared to a Division I school, because we're Division II, we're not thinking national championship. We're not thinking, playoff runs. We're thinking being on top of every conference every single year and being competitive. None of this, losing season type of deal, And I bring this up because with the exception of 2011, when the Wildcats would periodically roll over and just that be it, the Wildcats have been a competitive team throughout Blaine Bennett's time as football coach. So Blaine Bennett's all-time record as the coach, give or take, about 40-something and 16. I know he lost 16 the games, but I can't remember how many games he's won. I think it's 41, 42 or something like that. You don't win that many games in 5 years and get fired. I mean, just that's what it makes me nervous for. Is Now you got a new coach. Luckily, the new coach was the offensive coordinator and one of the assistant coaches at Central, so he knows the players, he knows the playbook. So it's not like the team is just being thrown a new playbook this far into the offseason. So that is okay. I mean, and a search for a full time coach, because this is an interim coach, a search for that coach will take place. After the season's over. Okay, so good luck to Coach John Pekka or Pika. He said Pika when he was on the air, so but I've heard Pekka as well. But even so, it's like, why would you do that? Like, there's never a good time to fire a coach. Never. It says the wrong message. You're pretty much starting from scratch half the time and that type of deal. But to do it that close before kickoff, I mean, you're telling me, I haven't met the athletic director. Probably will see him at a football game at some point. I'm sure he's got a vision. The former athletic director, Jack Bishop, had a vision of where he wanted Central Washington University to the athletic department to go. I'm sure Mr. Francois has a vision of where he wants to go. But you're telling me you couldn't wait until the end of the season when maybe not just a full-time coach, a search for a full-time coach could start, and you could have more of a idea of what you wanted long-term. And also, this wouldn't necessarily affect recruiting in the sense that Blaine Bennett recruited all of these kids to come to Central, and now they don't have him as a coach. It's just the timing of it. That's the part that scares me the most. It's the timing. Because you don't win that many games and get fired. You win that many games and you can leave to go to a different program. It was reported that Blaine Bennett did accept an interview with the head coaching position at the University of Idaho. Maybe that was the thing. I don't know. But the timing basically told me there's something wrong. There's something going on behind the scenes, or there's something that was happening behind the scenes that could eventually get Central in trouble. Now, that's what I think. I haven't seen anything, so any sources. So if you see anything, or don't be quoting me in regards to that. But that's why I'm nervous. I'm going to be watching the games, and I'm going to be cheering on the Cats and following them, giving you coverage. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm going to be thinking, all right, well, I really hope that this move just kind of is swept under the rug, and that's where it stays. Or, this whole thing is thrown into the fire, and it just burns out. And for the most, if that's the case, then fine. I won't worry about it. But it's just, again, I hate to repeat myself, but you don't win that many games and get fired. You win that many games and either get promoted to a higher league or you stay. So it is what it is, I guess. So that's the first reason why I'm concerned about Central football. The second reason why I'm concerned about Central football is this. The Great Northwest Athletic Conference actually has a lot more parity than it has ever had before. Humboldt State and Western Oregon finished very close to Central in the standings last year when Central won the conference title. And now you're starting to see the lower tiers, the Azusa Pacifics, Simon Fraser, and Dixie States. They are starting to creep up and surprise the upper tier of the GNAC. Give you an example. Last year, Azusa Pacific comes into the conference, brand new team. I think they lost their first 6 games in a row. Central goes down to Glendora, California, and loses to them, giving them their first GNAC win of the season. And Azusa Pacific finished as the hottest team in the GNAC. Look at Dixie State. Now, I understand that these types of streaks are going to end. I get this. But Central had never lost to Dixie State as a Division II school. They lost to Dixie State, and now all of a sudden, that game in St. George, Utah is a toss-up. Simon Fraser, they have Simon Fraser in 5th. I would probably put Simon Fraser in 6th. That's just my personal opinion because I feel like they're still too inconsistent with trying to get things going. But this is not a give me anymore. When I went to Central, the GNAC winner would pretty much romp all over everybody. Maybe they lost one or two games, one to a non-conference opponent, and then one to a school within the conference, and it just kind of be a surprise. I don't think there's ever been this much parity in the GNAC. Humboldt State has only been good for the last 3 years. Western Oregon's always been competitive, but hasn't been able to get over the hump just yet. In fact, out of all the schools that I thought would pass Central in the standings, it was Western Oregon, but it hasn't been the case. And then, of course, you had Central. And this is, of course, back when the GNAC also only had 4 teams. Western Oregon, Humboldt State, Central Washington, and Dixie State. Excuse me. I was confusing it back when Western Washington used to have a football team. So that's another reason why I'm concerned. Another area of concern is who's going to be the quarterback. It has not been announced yet, but we have 3 candidates. Colin Walsh, who's from Oregon. He's not a transfer, just went to high school in Oregon. He's a sophomore. We got 2 red shirts. Jake Nelson from Lake Stevens, Washington, and Justin Lane from Arlington. And he went to Lakewood High School. It has not been announced who's going to be the starting quarterback just yet. Now, it's not. However, the quarterback's not going to be, they're trying to replace Mike Riley, kind of like how Ryan Robertson was replacing Mike Riley, the best quarterback in school's history. So they don't have that pressure, but it's still, you get kind of nervous when you get a new arm behind, in the backfield. So that should be interesting to watch as well. Overall, I'm expecting Central to be competitive. I'm expecting them to win some games. I'm expecting them to play Wildcat football, but I just got a sneaking suspicion there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises. We have to open up thankfully. Now, hopefully we won't have home games taken away from us like they were last year with the Forest Fires. But we open up against Texas A&M Kingsville. Why we keep playing them as our non-conference opponent, I don't know why. I do have that game down as a loss because we have yet to beat Kingsville. We've played them 3 years in a row. We played them twice, and we've lost at home and we're blown out on the road. And then after that, you go right into the conference season. We play Western Oregon and Simon Fraser and Ellensburg the next 2 weeks, followed by 2 trips to Southern California, Azusa Pacific, and Humboldt State. Homecoming game will feature Dixie State, the Red Storm, in Ellensburg in mid-October. They go up north after that, Simon Fraser. And then they will return home and play Azusa Pacific and Humboldt State to wrap out the home portion of the schedule. And then they'll go down to Monmouth, Oregon, and St. George, Utah to finish out the season. Looking at the GNAC preseason polls, this is the coaches' poll. The Dixie State Red Storm is predicted to finish in last. Simon Fraser is next with 5th. There is a 2-way tie between Western Oregon and Azusa Pacific for 3rd, although Western Oregon got 1 first-place vote. Central Washington is predicted to finish in 2nd place. They got 2 first-place votes. And Humboldt State is predicted to finish in 1st. So this year is going to be a lot tougher. It's going to be kind of like last year, where only without of the weird, bizarre road trip that we had, because we opened up the season with 6 road games, if you want to count the neutral game or neutral site that we had in Bothell because of the forest fires. So I'm expecting the Cats to be competitive, but I'm also thinking they're going to struggle a little bit just with all the changes in personnel, the quarterback, and with the GNAC having parity. That being said, as much as I hate to admit this, my Great Northwest Athletic Conference preseason prediction, and as much as I don't want to say it, is Western Oregon. Western Oregon for this reason. Number one, I'm still hoping that Humboldt State, their success is just a fluke, because when they played Central when I went there, I mean, they were lucky enough to score a touchdown 1 minute left to go in the game. But no, the reason why I have Western Oregon is because they were one play away from the conference championship last year. They've always had a good defense. They've always had a good quarterback, great wide receivers. I mean, they were known and still are known for their wide receiving core. I mean, just if you like wide receiving, you go watch Western Oregon games. But they were one play away from winning the Great Northwest Athletic Conference Championship last year. One play. They were winning against Central. It was the third week of the season. They were up 21. They were up 21-14. They were marching down late in the quarter. Very scary moment for Central. That was, I mean, frankly, the Western Oregon game. I watched that game online. That was the best game I watched last year. I mean, it was just an overall really good, tight, defensive special team game. So they're marching, and they throw an interception. The Wildcats took it back to the red zone, and they scored the game-tying touchdown and won the game in overtime. If the Western Oregon Wolves were able to score on that drive, they would have been GNAC champions. Reason why is because they would have gone into a tiebreaker with Central Washington. And because Central beat them later on in the season, but that would have put them over the hump. Central Washington and Western Oregon finished with identical records last year. And due to the tiebreaker, Central got the title. One play. They don't throw that interception, Central doesn't win the title last year. That was the turning point of the season for the Wolves if they wanted to get a championship. And that is why I think this year could be the year the Western Oregon Wolves finally get over the hump, and unfortunately take the conference championship from Ellensburg to Monmouth, Oregon, and win it this year. I will say this though, as much as I've enjoyed beating Western Oregon, I do have respect for that school and I do have respect for that program, but they're overdue. They are way overdue. Out of all the schools, again, I said this many times before, they were the one school that almost beat us during the regular season, during our magical 2009 run when we went undefeated during the regular season and hosted playoff games. So that is my GNAC champion. On a final note, on a positive thing, I'm finally going to do something that I've always wanted to do. I'm going to finally see Central Washington play on the road. Don't necessarily know if I'm going to go to Ellensburg just yet and watch a game. Heck, I might catch the homecoming game. I don't know. Haven't really figured that out yet. But I will say this. I have finally found somebody to travel with. I got my fingers crossed because I was supposed to do this last year. And we were going to spend the weekend in Portland, Oregon. And while doing that, we are going to travel down to Monmouth, which is about an hour, 15 minutes south of Portland. And we're going to watch Central play the Wolves on the road. Really looking forward to that. I will do something on Facebook. I don't know if I just take a bunch of pictures or I'll film. I don't know yet, but I will do something there. Really, really excited for that. It's been a while. I had an opportunity to do that when I was in college, and unfortunately, I just didn't do it. So I finally get an opportunity to see my team on the road. So go Cats. Let's go out and get a GNAC championship. But again, if we win it, it's not going to be an easy ride. It's not. The lower tier of the conference is also sneaking up on the upper tier. You know, Central Washington has been upsetted by Dixie State, Azusa Pacific, and Simon Fraser in the last 2 years, where they just sneak up out of nowhere and win. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, where did this come from? So we also got to figure that in too. Alrighty, thanks for watching Football Week. Thanks for watching coverage on the Seahawks, Huskies, and Wildcats. Let's go Cats, and we will talk to you next time here on YouTube or on Facebook. See you guys later.